My name's Starsky and welcome to From the Studio on Clubbing TV, and in this episode I'm going to be taking a look at how to use these bits of kit in front of me to produce a live electronic music set in the style of Kink. During lockdown, I caught Kink doing a 1 hour set from what looked like his bedroom using a drum machine and 3 synths, the same ones I've got in front of me now. And what he did was he created the live set by playing everything live. He didn't have a backing track like some people do. Some people, they say they're playing live and you know most of it's on a backing track and they're just playing a little bit over the top. He literally plays the drums live. He doesn't rely on using a song mode and things automatically happening. He plays the synth live, he pulls up a patch, he plays something, records it, it loops, he goes to the next synth, he does that, goes to another one and does that, comes back, plays with the drums, and the whole thing's just so fluid and beautiful. It's a really sort of virtuoso performance. Some people spend the time learning guitars, some people spend the time learning pianos. He's obviously spent his time learning drum machines and how to program and play synths, and it's really, really good to watch. So if you can, so catch it. So taking a quick look at the kit he uses, the drum machine he uses is a Roland TR-8. This plays all the sort of classic Roland TR-808, 909, 707, all those classic early 80s, 90s dance track sort of standards. And what you see is what you get on this panel. If the snare drum's turned up, it's turned up. There's no way of saving patches and loading a patch and then the knobs on in the correct positions for that patch. If the kick drum's turned up, it's up. If the kick drum decay is on full, it's on full. And then we move over to the synths, and he's got a Korg Minilogue XD. And this is great. It plays chords. You can record sequences on it, which means that you can play something on it and it will loop and loop while you move over to the next keyboard. The next keyboard uses a Korg Monologue. Again, it's got a sequencer on it, so you can play a little pattern and it'll repeat and repeat and repeat. And this only plays one note at a time. It's a mono synth. And then he has a 303 clone or a real 303 or something like this, Behringer TD-3. There's loads of them on the market and they make the classic acid squelchy tones. And if we look at what he's got here, he's effectively got a modern version of a classic guitar band. We've got a drummer, we've got a rhythm guitarist playing chords, we've got a bass player playing a bass note at a time, and we've got a lead guitarist showing off. So let's start off by taking a look at the drums, shall we? There's different ways of programming this. You can use what's called the XOX method, sort of step programming. So we can see here the kick drum is going to be on the 1, 5, 9 and a 13. If we play that just on the beat, if I turn it up, we look at the snare drum, it's going to come on 5 and 13, so it's come on the backbeat. Open hi-hat, let's have a look where that's coming, 3, 7, 11 and 15. So it's really simple to do that. Another thing he does is he plays them live, and that's really good for playing live because it looks pretty cool, but it also means you can change the rhythm to match what your synthesizers are doing, what your bass line's playing and stuff. So let's take a look at changing the hi-hats on this, shall we? What we're playing on the hi-hats at the minute. So let's clear that. They've gone just by pressing this clear button. Then we can go to instrument record and it'll record on the fly. So let's put the kick drum in so we're in time. Go to instrument record mode. And we're in. So you can create a beat and change a beat on the fly. Let's go a little bit more complex now. Let's add a build and a drop. So for a build, maybe we'll have a snare roll. And the way he builds a snare roll is simply by putting the snare in every beat. So we can bring that in and maybe do something a little bit more complex as well. He does something nice with his rim shots, for example. He tunes it up as it builds, so like this. So let's do that with a snare roll maybe, maybe add another clap or something like that as well. So we've got a snare build, we've got the rim shot coming in, we've got the hi-hats playing on the beat, we've got a ride cymbal coming in, we've got some reverb in there. I'm throwing everything I can in here to sort of show you how it works, but you know, you wouldn't necessarily do every one of those on every build because you'd probably end up with repetitive strain injury after about 10 minutes. But good to see how it all works. So I think we've pretty much covered the drum machine and what you can do with that. Now it's time to take a look at the synthesizers. The first one we're going to look at is the Minilogue XD, and this is great. It plays chords, so you can do all those sort of stabby things. But of course, if we are playing a rhythm, we need to sequence this with the drum machine. So the way I'm doing that is using a MIDI box, which you've got this thing here. And that's got 4 MIDI outs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's being synced using Logic on a laptop. So I've got a laptop here. It's not got any sounds in it whatsoever. It's just playing a MIDI clock to let the synths know what time signature to play in and what tempo to play in. So just pressing the space. And I assume he's doing something similar. You can get MIDI boxes like this that have got their own MIDI clock in and stuff, which is probably what you might use if you're going to be doing this live a lot. And let's take a look then at how he manipulates the sounds, because he creates these ever-evolving tones, leaving the drum machine playing. He then comes back and plays with this synth, and he can play with it for ages and just get all sorts of different things out of it, but not the standard way. What most people do is they use this filter cutoff, which gives that sort of classic dance sound, which you've heard on countless tracks. And for good reason, it's a really nice tone, but he doesn't rely on that very much. In fact, he hardly uses it. He goes over to this side of the synthesizer here. We've got some more complex things like the wave shapes, the wave types, cross modulation and ring mod, and he tweaks those constantly just to change the tone as well as playing with the effects. So let's just have a look at what some of those do. Sounds good, but there does sound like there's something missing, doesn't it? And that's because we haven't got a bass line yet. So let's take a look at making the bass lines. So we've got 2 machines here to do bass lines. We've got the Korg Monologue, which is good at bass and leads. And we've also got the TD-3, which is actually called an analog bassline synthesizer. But it's the classic acid sound that we get from that. And if you just look here, you can see that these lights are lit, which means there's a sequence in there. And if you watch what he does, he just bets up a new patch, and you see him do this. You see him just take off whatever's playing or whatever's been pre-programmed. There you go, that's a nice simple sound. So let's try and program something into that, have a little practice as we did with this, and then press record. Pressure's on when you press record, but you can always just go back in, delete them, and try again. Before I've obviously made this demo, I've been playing around with this for ages, and what you tend to do is you make a little tone, you do something nice, and you save it. You do something nice, and you save it. And what you end up with is lots and lots of different things that you can bring in and out that work along with each other. So if you do get a little bit lost in the mix, just flick it to one that you know works. So nice and deep. Yeah, you go off on one straight away. So I'll just turn this off for now. Let's have a listen to some others I've got in here. So you can come back, get that up and running. It's all going a bit dubby, isn't it? But you get the idea. I'm really just want to have a little play with it now. I just want to carry on playing them and tweaking and bringing the drums in out, but I just haven't got time in this episode. But you get the idea. You've got your rhythm, you've got a nice little chord structure that you start playing around with, bring in a bass line that you like, then go back and then you can change the chords that you're playing with. So you can sort of evolve this for ages and ages, but the key is having some tones that you know what's going to happen to them once you start manipulating them. So let's have a listen to something on the monologue, shall we? And I know that when I originally made that patch, it had 2 oscillators. It's only got 1 now. Bring in the second, bring in a bit of keyboard sync. So lots and lots of tones in there, aren't, that you can play with. Change the pitch. Play with the cutoff. So let's try that with everything else playing, shall we? So you can see where I'm going with that, can't you? And the final one to look at is the 303. Now, a 303 you can't really sequence live. They're a real pain to do that with. The Behringer's got an app that helps you along with it, but you can't do it in front of 1,000 people, or you can't do it in front of 1 person even. It's the most boring thing anyone's ever done. But what you do is you have some maybe pre-programmed in there that you know are going to work, that are in the same key. Let's have a listen then to the 303 clone on its own. Just turn everything else down. Okay then, let's try and bring everything together, shall we? And you can get lost in doing that for hours, which I did when I was preparing this. I just sort of disappeared for days, really enjoying myself, tweaking and playing and saving different sounds. So if you prepared a little set, you prepared all the different sounds that you're going to use, you've got a few little tricks up your sleeve, it's tremendous fun. It's not a cheap hobby. This is around 250 euros. These are around 500 to 250. So there you've got 1,000, another 150, 1,150, and a few effects units. So as I say, not a cheap hobby, but really, really good fun. If you did enjoy that, you can catch it whenever you like on YouTube, on Clubbing TV's From the Studio playlist. And if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll see what I can do to answer them. And if you are into your synths and your drum machines, maybe check out my YouTube channel, that's Starsky Carr on YouTube. And I've got lots of sort of synths and demos and comparisons. I go a lot more deep and a lot more technical than I do here. So I'll see you in the next episode of From the Studio.